Good afternoon, Meditate School of Mindfulness and Sound Healing. I am Becky Moriarty, the Director of Sound, and I am coming to you live from Sarasota on Sunday, December 18th in the evening. My classes are normally in the morning, but I had a little hiccup this morning, so we're meeting this evening. And for this class, this recording today, we're going to talk about brainwaves. We're going to dig a little bit into entrainment, and we're going to dig a little bit into some binaural beats. And why this is important is because when we're doing sound healing, we are definitely affecting the different brainwaves and taking people in through all these different states. And I think a lot of the times we're taught that we get people down into that theta brainwave state. But I don't know that necessarily anybody really knows what that means. I know that it drops the body temperature and that it's that state that we're in just before we kind of fall asleep. But, until I really dug into some research from this, I knew a little bit about the brainwaves, but not a whole lot. And I think that it's important. I think it's something that, that we should know about. So here we go. So what are brainwaves? At the root of all of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors is the communication between neurons within our brains. Brainwaves are produced by synchronized electrical pulses from masses of neurons communicating with each other. This activity is detected using sensors that they place on the scalp. The activity is divided into bandwidths to describe their functions, but are best thought of as a continuous spectrum of consciousness from slow, loud, and functional to fast, subtle, and complex. It is a handy analogy to think of brainwaves as musical notes. The low frequency waves are like a deeply penetrating drumbeat, while the higher frequency brainwaves are more like a subtle high-pitched flute. Like a symphony, the higher and lower frequencies link and cohere with each other through harmonics, okay? Our brainwaves change according to what we're doing and feeling. When slower brainwaves are dominant, we can feel tired, slow, sluggish, or dreamy. The higher frequencies are dominant when we feel wired or hyper alert. Brainwave speed is measured in hertz, so cycles per second. The other thing that we've learned of that we deal with hertz is tuning forks. And they are divided into bands delineating slow, moderate, and fast waves. Now, if you've ever seen a picture of the brainwaves, you have some that are very much like this, and then you have some that are slower. That's kind of what those brainwaves look like. And in your Word document that I'm going to include with this video, I have a little image of the brainwaves if you're unsure of what the heck it is I'm talking about right now. Researchers have speculated that a fully functioning brain can generate as much as 10 watts of electrical power. That is so cool. Kind of reminds me of the Matrix when I read this, that we're basically just batteries. Others calculate that if all 10 billion interconnected nerve cells discharge at one time, that a single electrode placed on the human scalp would record something like 5 millionths to 50 millionths of a volt. If you had enough scalps hooked up, you might be able to light a flashlight bulb. Wow, that's pretty cool. Again, Matrix. The Matrix really blew my mind. So when I listen to or read some of this stuff, that's where it makes me go. Brainwaves were discovered by German neurologist Hans Berger in the mid-1920s. Though Berger's path to this discovery began because he wanted to record what he thought was psychic energy in the brain. He eventually narrowed his focus and successfully made the first recording of electrical waves in the brain. An electroencephalogram, or an EEG, is what he used to kind of record this. Since his discovery, EEGs have been used to provide useful information about one's mental state and functioning, as they can lead to the diagnosis of epilepsy, sleep condition, Alzheimer's, and other issues related to brain functioning. So the advent of this EEG has helped us with brain stuff ever since then. So there are 5 different types of brain waves ranging from low to high frequency. Now, some of the research that I was doing over the past couple weeks said 4 different types of brain waves, and some say 5. I'm going with the 5. Some don't include the gamma brain waves in some of their stuff, but I am going to be covering kind of all of that today. So delta brain waves are anywhere from 0.5 to 3 hertz. Delta brain waves are of higher amplitude than beta, slow, loud, and deep, like a drum beat. They are created in deep, dreamless sleep and in the deepest meditations. I'm going to let somebody else in, Christina. So beta or delta brainwaves are created in deep, dreamless sleep and in the deepest of meditations. They never go down to zero because that would mean that we were brain dead. We don't want that. But deep, dreamless sleep would take you down to the lowest frequencies, typically 2 to 3 cycles a second. Delta waves suspend external awareness and are the source of empathy, extreme bliss, and compassion. They are associated with deep, restorative, healing sleep. Hi, Miss Erin. We are just talking about brain waves and kind of what they are all about. And, they were discovered back in the mid-1920s. And brain waves are basically electrical impulses that pass through the neurons in our brain, and how we measure them. And we measure them through an EEG device by sticking sensors on the scalp. So now we're digging into the 5 brainwave states, okay? So we've just covered delta brain waves, which again are 0.5 to 3 hertz. They are slow, loud, and deep like a drum beat. They are created in deep, dreamless sleep and in the deepest meditations. They never go down to zero because that would mean that we were brain dead. And again, we don't want that. But deep, dreamless sleep would take you down to the lowest frequencies, typically 2 to 3 cycles a second, so 2 to 3 hertz. Delta waves suspend external awareness and are the source of empathy, extreme bliss, and compassion. They are associated with deep, restorative, healing sleep. And Erin, there's a Word document that I put in with each of the videos. So if you don't want to take notes, or if you miss something because I'm talking too fast, the Word document will be in there. Okay.
Thank you.
Delta brain waves stimulate the pituitary gland, releasing human growth hormone, or HGH. They are also associated with aiding in the release of anti-aging hormones, melatonin and DEA, while decreasing cortisol, the stress hormone that promotes aging. Sounds pretty darn good. Apart from infants and advanced meditators, not many people are able to be in a delta brainwave state and remain conscious. Usually they will drift into unconscious sleep beforehand. Delta brain waves allow for connection between our subconscious mind and into our unconscious mind, where we have access to control what would normally be unconscious or automatic functions in our body, mind, and emotions. Delta waves are involved in involuntary bodily functions such as heartbeat and digestion, and are where much restoration and healing in the body takes place. Delta waves promotes excellent intuitive abilities, connection with our spiritual self, ESP, and out-of-body experiences. I think I want to really strive for that delta brainwave state, I have to say. So theta brainwaves are 3 to 8 hertz. Theta brainwaves are greater amplitude to alpha brainwaves, but they are even slower. Usually, theta brainwaves occur when you are in a dreaming state of sleeping and in deep meditation. Theta brainwaves can occur when you are awake, although most adults do not get relaxed enough to maintain this state. I believe that in a sound bath, we take people into this theta brainwave state, and they kind of ride this, and then when they conk out, they go into that delta brainwave state. But we really want to, I believe, like hypnotherapy, keep people riding kind of in that theta state. This is where we're going for. Theta is associated with intuition, healing, and creativity. It is also great for language learning and development. Theta improves spiritual awareness and is associated with ESP and channeling. Artisans, musicians, and children can more easily access theta by being in a very relaxed and/or creative state. You can get into theta state while driving when you zone out and don't remember how you got from here to there, which happens to me all the time, especially if I'm listening to a book on tape. Repetitive tasks that disengage your mind, such as brushing your teeth or showering, creates theta waves, allowing a flow of ideas to suddenly come up. This is why people say, I always have the best ideas in the shower, because doing a mindless task like showering gets you into those theta brainwave states. You can also go into theta when daydreaming, playing video games, jogging, or meditating. In theta state, our senses are withdrawn from the external world and focused on our internal world. Theta state is where we keep deep feelings, raw emotions, fears, traumas, and nightmares. When in theta state, we have difficulty focusing, and prolonged theta state may create feelings of disengagement, boredom, and depression. So there is kind of a downside to maybe being in that state too much. Next is alpha brain waves. They are 8 to 12 hertz. They are slower and higher in amplitude than beta waves. Alpha state is a relaxed and usually meditative state. Alpha brainwaves promote creativity, problem solving, and a flow state or getting in the zone. Alpha brainwaves allow for more balanced emotions. Because alpha is a relaxed state, tension, anxiety, and stress dissolve when you move from beta to alpha. This leads to mental coordination, alert calmness, and the release of serotonin. Alpha brainwave state bridges the conscious and subconscious mind. Conscious and subconscious mind. Oh, we're going to let somebody else in. When you are in an alpha state, accessing your subconscious mind, you are highly suggestible. Your subconscious mind doesn't understand logically and physical limitations like your conscious mind does. When you are in an excited or stressed state, you may block the production of alpha waves. Meditation or relaxation techniques can bring you back into an alpha state. That's why getting on the mindfulness train and meditating and all of that is so important, because when we get a little out of balance and we get more into those beta waves, taking a deep breath and doing a little meditation, some breath work, the things that we talk about in mindfulness can get you back down into this alpha brainwave state, which is really where we want to be. Alpha waves also promote the awareness of being in the present or in the now. Switching into alpha states boosts the immune system and helps with learning large amounts of information. Where beta represents arousal, and we're going to talk about beta in a minute, yes, there will be a document posted after this, I promise, because you did miss a couple of minutes. I'm sorry about that, but welcome to the class. Okay, so let me see, where were we? Okay, so where beta represents arousal, and we're going to talk about beta, geez Louise. Alpha represents non-arousal. A person who has completed a task and sits down to rest is often in an alpha state. A person who takes time out to reflect or meditate is usually in an alpha state. A person who takes a break from a conference and walks in the garden is often in an alpha state. And then we have the beta state, which is 12 to 38 hertz. So now starting to move faster. Beta state is the dominant state of the alert waking mind. When engaged in activities of the outside world, you are in a beta state. This brainwave state consists of high frequency, low amplitude waves and uses a lot of energy to maintain. Beta brainwaves are great for engaging in tasks, thinking fast, writing, and engaging in conversations. Most schools and workplaces encourage operating in this beta state. Beta state is great for engaging in tasks, thinking fast, writing, and having conversations, like I said. You are in a beta state when you are goal-oriented and getting things done. Prolonging in this state is associated with stress, muscle tension, increased blood pressure, anxiety, insomnia, and addiction. So we want to be in this state to get stuff done, but we don't want to live here. We want to live in those alpha states. So we want to get that stuff done, but then we need to meditate, relax. We need to do all of those things that we need to do to get ourselves back into balance. So beta brainwaves are further divided into 3 different bands. So there's low beta, LO-beta, which is 12 to 15 hertz and can be thought of as fast idle. Then there's just beta waves, which is also considered beta number 2, beta 2, which is 15 to 22 hertz and is high engagement or actively figuring something out. So when you're like in the throes of really working through something, you're in that beta 2 state. And then there's high beta, which is beta 3, the number 3, which is 22 to 38 hertz and is highly complex thought, integrating new experiences, high anxiety or excitement. So the beta waves is 12 to 38 hertz, and then they're broken down into 3 different subsections within those hertz. And then we have the gamma brain waves. Gamma brain waves are 38 to 42 hertz. And again, in some of my research, there were some people who didn't talk about the gamma brain waves, but I definitely think that it's important. So gamma brain waves are the fastest recorded brainwave state. Gamma brain waves contribute to rapid information processing, peak concentration, and learning. They are shown to be highly active when experiencing states of love, altruism, and higher virtues. Gamma neurological firing was once said to be above the frequency of neurological firing, but now is known to fire at a tiny amplitude that is barely noticeable. Gamma brain waves serve to bind and harmonize the different parts of the brain. When your various senses observe an object through sight, smell, taste, etc., the object is perceived by different parts of the brain. Gamma unifies the information and creates coherence of various inputs. So the gamma brain waves take everything that your brain is observing, puts it together in unified information. It's also associated with feelings of compassion, higher levels of insight and information, psychic abilities, spiritual realizations, and out-of-body experiences. Gamma was dismissed as kind of spare brain noise until researchers discovered it was highly active when in states of universal love, altruism, and those higher virtues. It is also above the frequency of neurological firing, like I said. So how it is generated remains a mystery. We don't actually really know. Isn't that kind of cool? I mean, the human body is one of those things that we don't really, you would think after all this time, we understand all this stuff about it, but we actually don't. It is speculated that gamma rhythms modulate perception and consciousness, and that a greater presence of gamma relates to expanded consciousness and spiritual emergence. This new region of brain activity and states of consciousness associated with more spiritual states of self-awareness is called epsilon. So I thought that was kind of cool. So research has shown that although one brainwave state may predominate at any given time, depending on the activity level of the individual, the remaining 3 brain states are present in the mix of brain waves at all times. So it's not like if you're experiencing alpha, that's all you're experiencing. You are maybe predominantly in that alpha state, but all of the other brainwave states are still there in the background doing their thing. Let's see. In other words, while somebody is in an aroused state and exhibiting a beta brainwave pattern, there also exists in that person's brain a component of gamma, alpha, theta, and delta, even though these may present only at very trace levels, okay? So let's talk about brainwaves in sleep. So the brain is very active during sleep, and each stage of sleep is characterized by the brainwaves that accompany it. Stage 1. So in this stage, alpha waves are replaced by theta waves as one transitions from relaxation to sleep. Sleep is light and easily disturbed. Stage 2. During this stage of sleep, brain waves become slower as alpha activity stops completely and the theta waves become dominant. Stage 3 and 4. These stages are very similar in that both are forms of deep sleep. Brain activity slows down as delta waves occur. These are the stages during which sleepwalking and nightmares occur. Stage 5 is REM sleep. Stage 5 is that REM sleep. So during the rapid eye movement, which is REM, the muscles become temporarily paralyzed and the eyes move quickly. Dreaming also occurs during this stage. The pattern of brainwaves is similar to that in stage 1 and 2, although the sleeper is in a deeper state of sleep. When we go to bed and read for a few minutes before attempting to sleep, we are likely to be in low beta. When we put the book down, turn off the lights, and close our eyes, our brainwaves will descend from beta to alpha to theta, and finally, when we fall asleep, to delta. It is a well-known fact that humans dream in 90-minute cycles. I didn't actually know this. When the delta brainwave frequencies increase into the frequency of theta brainwaves, active dreaming takes place and often becomes more experiential to us. Typically, when this occurs, there is rapid eye movement, which is characteristic of active dreaming. When an individual awakes from a deep sleep in preparation for getting up, their brainwave frequencies will increase through the different specific stages of brainwave activity. That is, they will increase from delta to theta and then to alpha, and finally, when the alarm goes off, into beta. If that individual hits the snooze alarm button, hello, yes, they will drop in frequency to a non-aroused state or even into theta, or sometimes fall back to sleep into delta. During this awakening cycle, it is possible for individuals to stay in the theta state for an extended period of time, say 5 to 15 minutes, which would allow them to have a free flow of ideas about yesterday's events or to contemplate the activities of the forthcoming day. This time can be extremely productive and can be a period of very meaningful and creative mental activity. So that kind of 10 to 15 minutes after you first wake up. I like to meditate in that space sometimes because I don't feel like I want to go back to sleep, but I feel like I'm relaxed enough that maybe I don't want to get up yet. So I'll usually turn on a meditation about then, and I find that really does kind of set me up for the day. So let's talk about a little bit about brainwaves and health. Does anybody have any questions so far? I'm kind of just reading and going through this. It's a lot of information. And again, you'll get the Word document and then you can read through it and it might make a little more sense. Let me see. There's a couple things in the chat. Let me look. Yes. Yeah. Yep. I know you do because you're always the first one, Christina, to enter into the 21-day challenge that you've done the meditation. So I love it. I love it. Okay, so brainwaves and mental health. Brainwaves are relevant to mental health as abnormalities in brain function can influence the development of certain conditions. Makes sense. For example, when certain areas of the brain are over-aroused, an individual may experience anxiety, nightmares, or other sleep problems, impulsivity, and aggression. Too little arousal in the brain has been correlated with depression, chronic pain, and insomnia. Which I thought was interesting. You know, too little arousal in the brain, you would think would almost make you tired, but it actually contributes to insomnia. So I thought that was interesting. If brain rhythms are unstable, an individual may experience obsessive compulsions, develop epilepsy, or have panic attacks. Instability in brain rhythms correlate with tics, obsessive compulsive disorder, aggressive behavior, rage, bruxism, panic attacks, bipolar disorder, migraines, narcolepsy, epilepsy, sleep apnea, vertigo, tinnitus, anorexia, bulimia, PMT, diabetes, hypoglycemia, and explosive disorder. And that is just a start. So it's interesting when we have instabilities in those brain rhythms, I mean, really how much it affects us. Neuroscientists have recently discovered a link between an overabundance of gamma waves in the brain and schizophrenia. Gamma waves cause hyperactivity in areas of the brain, and when this hyperactivity is abnormally high, as it often is in those with schizophrenia, delusions and hallucinations can result. I mean, we learned about the gamma waves. They actually kind of dismissed them for a while as just brain noise. And now they've discovered that they are the waves that unify all the different other waves and all the information in your brain. So imagine if that was overactive. I mean, we've discounted those waves. And now, I mean, imagine we discount all these things and it hurts how we treat mentally ill mental illness in this country. And I think all of those things that we always dismiss are always those things that play a role in that. And it drives me insane. Stanley, I'm sorry, my dog is chewing on his hedgehog and it's totally squeaking, and I'm so sorry. Okay. So neuroscientists, again, the brainwaves lead to schizophrenia. Gamma waves cause hyperactivity in areas of the brain. And when this hyperactivity is abnormally high, as it often is in those with schizophrenia, delusions and hallucinations can result. Poor sleep, which also results from an excess of hyperactive brainwaves, has also been recently shown to be a contributing factor to symptoms of schizophrenia. Poor sleep always makes everything worse. When we're tired and we feel like, we haven't slept, we do become different human beings. I know I do. I'm more stressed. I'm more explosive. I feel like my patience is just not as good. So it all makes sense. Those who have trouble sleeping due to overabundant gamma waves in the brain may experience a triggering of schizophrenia symptoms without actually being schizophrenic at all. But we could actually enter into almost like a schizophrenic state if we get too overwhelmed with those gamma states. Research on brainwaves has also shown that certain individuals may be biologically more likely to experience depression. These individuals demonstrate an abundance of alpha wave activity in the left frontal areas of their brain. Another condition that is characterized by an excess of lower frequency brainwaves is attention deficit hyperactivity. However, both of these conditions, along with others, have shown improvement when treated with neurofeedback therapy. And neurofeedback therapy is amazing. My best friend here in Florida, she was in a really bad car accident in high school. She had a traumatic brain injury. She ended up having to go through all sorts of relearning how to do things. And then when we were in our, I would say early to mid 30s, she started having seizures. Just randomly, never had them before. And so she did the biofeedback, the brainwave biofeedback. And it is amazing how much it has helped her moving forward. I don't believe that she's experienced any seizures since then. And she would tell me all about it. It's a very interesting, you watch a screen and they flash lights and do things in certain ways that reprograms and balances the brain. So neurofeedback is a therapeutic technique that is used to monitor and change brainwave patterns in an attempt to modify behaviors and improve mental health. In this type of therapy, individuals are taught to alter the flow of brainwaves. A therapist uses the EEG readings, and EEG is what they put the sensors on your scalp, and then they do that. That was discovered back in the 1920s. So a therapist uses EEG readings to determine the level of brain waves and assess the predominance of abnormal activity, and then rewards the desired brainwave activity to encourage its production. In an individual who has depression, for example, the therapist will use sound and visual effects to reward beta waves in order to help relieve the symptoms of depression. It's kind of cool. But also think about what we're doing with sound, right? So if they're using sound to reward those waves and we're getting people down into those states, we are also rewarding those brainwave states with sound and relaxation, right? So we're just kind of solidifying that relaxation for people as well, which I think is really cool. So lots of cool things going on out there in the world with, brainwave biofeedback and all of these things that we're learning about the brain and how, again, now we're rewarding the brainwaves that we want to be more dominant, to help them produce more. It's so cool. It's also kind of scary to think about how we can manipulate these brainwaves and potentially manipulate people. So where there's good, sometimes there's bad, but that's just how things go, right? We can't move forward. It's unfortunate that there has to be bad, but we need that good to move forward in the world and to help people. So, there's always all of that. But I think if you can really wrap your head around that there's 5 different brainwave states, they each do different things, and we can find tricks and tools. And I think that mindfulness gives us all those tricks and tools to get ourselves into the brainwave states that we want to be in. then that really, it's interesting because Eileen McCusick, who I have taken some tuning fork classes with and read her books. She talks about voltage, right? Raising your voltage. And that's what, we're talking about. If the brain waves that control all these things are hertz, they're measured in frequency. I think that voltage makes more sense to me when we talk about, instead of raising the frequency, raising our voltage. I think that's really what we're trying to achieve. So that's pretty cool. So now we're going to talk about brainwave and entrainment. So if any of you have taken our level 1 sound healing, and I know that you guys have, we talk about entrainment and why, that's what sound healing is doing. It's entraining the brain. But what does that mean? So when was the last time a song got stuck in your head? For me, it's every day. And I will say, Bill has posted something on the Stan. Stop. Bill has posted something on the Mighty Network. And I think his title or his tag for the thing is "What is Love?" And in my head, I always go, "Baby, don't hurt me." So I read it for the past week. So I have had "What is love? Baby, don't hurt me" stuck in my head all week long. So I'm just passing that on. So now you guys can have it stuck in your head as well. So if you're anything like me, again, it's usually an 80s song that remains there playing over and over until I'm sufficiently distracted by something else, possibly another 80s song, or anything else. This repetitive pattern is the basic concept behind brainwave entrainment. While brainwave entrainment is a relatively new, kind of trendy biohacking method, the concepts behind it are centuries old. In the Bronze Age, people used ceremonial chambers that were acoustically tuned to particular brainwave frequencies in order to induce an altered state. Ancient Greeks built spinning wheels that allowed sunlight to flicker through them in a specific way. Modern brainwave entrainment prompts the brain to access a particular state through a variety of different stimulation modes, including pulsing sounds, lights, or electromagnetic fields. Essentially, the stimulation convinces the brain activity to synchronize to the external stimulation. So this is what we're talking about. So when we're doing sound healing, the external stimulation is the vibrations and the frequencies that we're playing into and towards the body. The stimulation can be low power to bias the brain activity, or higher energy, which can activate brain cells directly. Most people experience brainwave entrainment as producing a trance, enhanced concentration, relaxation, meditation, or sleepiness. And that's pretty much what we're accessing when we're talking about sound healing or meditation. The potential benefits of brainwave entrainment include increased attention, which is that gamma and beta waves, healthy sleep, theta and delta waves, reduced stress and anxiety, alpha waves, improved memory, gamma and beta waves, enhanced meditation, alpha waves, mood boost, gamma and beta waves. There are several different approaches to brainwave entrainment. There's magnetic, electric, haptic, which is vibrational, and audio stimulation. I'm sorry about my dog. Stanley, he only chews on that thing when it, it makes it weird for him to do so. So, audio stimulation. Several forms of audio stimulation have been used to entrain brainwaves through the vestibulocochlear nerve, the pathway that directly connects the ears to your brain. This is the most accessible type of brainwave entrainment because all it requires is sound. If you want to try it out for yourself, just do a quick YouTube search. Audio stimulation can utilize 3 types of sound: isochronic tones, binaural beats, and monaural beats. So isotronic tones, these are single tones that come on and off at regular intervals, creating a rhythmic pulse. So just boom, 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 boom. This idea is for your brain to sync to that specific frequency. So maybe it's just a 528 hertz, just boom, boom, off on, off on, off on. It's just one tone. That's an isochronic tone. And then we're going to talk right now about binaural beats, but then I'm going to dig into them in just in just a minute. But binaural beats are different from isotronic tones in that they are continuous, while the isochronic tones turn on and off. With the binaural beats, you use headphones that play 2 tones with slightly different frequencies in each ear to create an auditory illusion. So it's different frequencies, one played into one ear, one played into the other. They play continuously, but you'll hear one in one ear and one in the other. That's why they tell you to play with headphones. I will say, when I go to sleep at night, I do listen to binaural beats. I don't put headphones in because I can't sleep with headphones, but I have to just let it go and say that I'm getting the benefits out of it just the same, even without having headphones. And then monaural beats are like binaural beats, but the two tones are combined rather than separated by ear. So you can experience monaural beats through speakers rather than headphones. Your brain perceives the difference between the tones as a beat. So for those of you who have a background in brain training, you may be thinking this sounds a little bit like neurofeedback. There are some key differences, however. While brainwave entrainment pushes your brain into a specific state, neurofeedback training aims to teach you to reach that state on your own. So brainwave entrainment is using those beats to push your brain into a specific state, and neurofeedback training aims to teach you to reach that state on your own. Rather than forcing your brain to reach a certain position, neurofeedback gives you the skills you need to be able to move your brain through those states yourself, through all sorts of techniques like meditation and sound healing. So, binaural beats. The phenomenon of binaural beats was discovered by Heinrich Wilhelm Dove in 1841 and first described in scientific literature in 1973. The same phenomenon arises when tuning two guitar strings. As the frequencies get closer together, we begin to hear a slow pulsing beat between the notes of the two strings. A binaural beat is an illusion created by the brain when you listen to two tones with slightly different frequencies at the same time. Your brain interprets the two tones as a beat of its own. The two tones align with your brain waves to produce a beat with a different frequency. This frequency is the difference in hertz between the frequencies of the two tones. For example, if you're listening to a 440 hertz tone with your left ear and a 444 hertz tone with your right ear, you would be hearing a 4 hertz tone because that's the difference between the two. When you listen to binaural beats, your brain activity matches the frequency set by the frequency of the beat. This is called the frequency following effect. This means you can use binaural beats to entrain your mind to reach a certain state. So when wearing earphones that are playing slightly different notes in each ear, our brain perceives the volume to pulse or oscillate at a fixed rate. And that is what is called the beat. Located in the brainstem, the superior olivary complex is the first part of the brain that processes sound input from both ears. The superior olivary complex synchronizes various activities of the many neurons in the brain. This complex responds when it hears two close frequencies and creates a binaural beat, which changes your brain waves. The synchronization of the neural activities across the brain is called entrainment. According to some researchers, when you listen to certain binaural beats, they can increase the strength of certain brainwaves, and this can increase or hold back different brainwave functions that control thinking and feeling. So we're really learning now through all sorts of different things, but through binaural beats, through this neurofeedback, through this brainwave biofeedback, that we can actually increase certain brainwaves and hold back maybe brainwaves that are too overactive. So we're really learning right now, I think, how we can really manipulate these brainwave states. And again, when you're doing a sound bath, you're not necessarily going to know necessarily like, oh, I'm looking at Erin and she is in the theta waves, but I'm looking at Christina and she's in the alpha. You're not going to know that. I think you're going to get a feeling of where people are at. But again, for me, it's all about visualization. So now that I've really dug into this, I'm visualizing color, I'm visualizing notes, I'm visualizing all this stuff, but I also am visualizing now these different layers of brainwaves, and I'm really visualizing my classes like dropping down through them. So I'm really hoping that my intentions of really working people down through is helping people work down through a little bit easier, who maybe sometimes have, because not everybody in a group sound bath is going to get there, right? I think sometimes I'll have a group sound bath where everybody is out, and then sometimes I have a group sound bath where I can feel that there's one or two people that just haven't dropped in, and they just can't. And it's possible that their brain waves are so overstimulated into another state that they just can't. And so maybe through those binaural beats, we're helping them drop down. And hopefully they can get there, and then hopefully they can learn how to get there on their own. I mean, that's the hope. But yeah, so this super olivary complex located in the brainstem has a lot to do with all of that. So benefits of binaural beats include increased creativity and cognitive enhancement, reduced anxiety and improved mood, helping you enter a meditative state, improve sleeping habits, helping to improve focus, attention, and memory retention. But there are some side effects of binaural beats as well. So depression, some studies have linked binaural beats to increased feelings of depression. And it could be if you are already in one particular brainwave state, maybe you don't understand that, and you're listening to binaural beats that are actually just feeding into that state for you. Short bursts of anxiety, anger, and confusion that can last for a short period of time because you're kind of messing with those brain waves. There is inconclusive research supporting binaural beat as a standalone medical treatment tool at this moment. I think we know that there could be benefits there, but again, I think we do need to test the limits of that and what that means. Because here's the thing, we talk to people about how there's not very many contraindications for sound healing, and there isn't. But when you're specifically in doing things that are messing with your brain waves, if you're doing, neurofeedback training or whatever, that's something that you have to take seriously, because messing with these brain waves really can mess with your overall mental health. Okay. Binaural beat therapy can't be used in place of conventional therapy, but it could be used as a complementary strategy if discussed with a doctor. So I think it's a supporter. Research shows that binaural beats are good for mental health, as it's linked to encouraging positive feelings. As many binaural beats are freely available, the reactions to the beats vary from one individual to another. Individuals need to experiment with different binaural beats. It has changed some of my binaural beats in my spell check to binary beats. I'm going to have to go in and change those to find ones that suit them. The effectiveness of binaural beats depends on the listener. So some people will find the beats effective, others might find them irritating and unproductive. Now, sometimes I find that if I find something irritating, I might lean into it a little more to experiment whether it's maybe something that I need to push through. But if you find binaural beats to be irritating or making you feel angry or frustrated or whatever, I would say switch to a different frequency and test that. So don't give up on binaural beats altogether. I would just say if you reach a frequency that makes you feel irritated or depressed, maybe that's not the frequency for you, and switch it up to something else. So how to listen to binaural beats correctly. All you need to experiment with binaural beats is a binaural beat audio. So you can look those up on YouTube. You can definitely look those up on YouTube, or, there's lots of places that have that sort of thing. And a pair of headphones or earbuds. So with these binaural beats, you want the headphones and the earbuds. You can easily find audio files of binaural beats online, such as YouTube, and then decide which brainwave fits your desired state. So binaural beats in the delta 1 to 4 hertz range have been associated with deep sleep and relaxation. Binaural beats in the theta 4 to 8 hertz range are linked to REM sleep, reduced anxiety, relaxation, as well as meditative and creative states. Binaural beats in the alpha frequencies 8 to 13 are thought to encourage relaxation, promote positivity, and decrease anxiety. And binaural beats in the lower beta frequencies 14 to 30 have been linked to increased concentration and alertness, problem solving, and improved memory. Binaural beats of 40 hertz were found to be helpful in enhancing training and learning, according to a 2020 study. And I think I looked up 40 hertz for the binaural beats is also what they're using. They're really using 40 hertz to run studies on whether 40 hertz can help with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So I think that's pretty cool. That 40 hertz has been coming up a lot more in healing. So I'm really going to be keeping an eye on that, because I think we're going to start using these brainwave things for helping with things like Alzheimer's. I really do think that if we could figure out how to harness and how to stimulate and how to, we could potentially really help wipe out a lot of these brain diseases, which I think would be really, really cool. So when listening to binaural beats, it's best to sit in a comfortable place, free of distractions. Listening to the binaural beat audio for at least 30 minutes each day in your headphones ensures that the rhythm is entrained throughout the brain. When you experiment with the length, you can experiment with the length of time you listen to the beats to find out what works for you. So if you're experiencing high levels of anxiety or stress, you may want to listen to the audio for a full hour or longer. Just remember, you must use headphones for binaural beats to work. You may also want to listen with your eyes closed. There are some who believe that binaural beats work only at lower volumes also. So I have never heard, this thing about volume until I was doing research on this. And there's a couple places where they say you want to listen to binaural beats at a low volume. First of all, the beats should not dominate. The purpose of using binaural beats is to enhance the focus on the main task, be it work, sleep, or meditation. Secondly, our brain computes the beats frequency differences better at lower volumes. So it is said that when we play them at higher volume, that our brain cannot compute the frequency differences as well. So listening to them at lower volume helps your brain compute the beats frequency differences better at low volumes. Binaural beats just need to be loud enough for us to feel the beat. So next time when you feel tempted to increase the volume, remember what the key to success about binaural beats is: the triggered communication between the left and right hemispheres for computing the frequency difference and entraining the brain. It's not necessarily for our listening pleasure. It's more about the beats. So listening to it at low volume is the way to go. Okay. Has anybody else ever heard that? I had never heard that. So now I've been listening to them at lower volume. Does anybody else listen to them at lower volume? Have you tried it to see the difference? No. Yeah, interesting. Give it a try. Let me know how it goes. So brainwaves and sound healing. To wrap up everything that we've talked about today, and I'm sorry that I find that in these classes I just rapid fire information at you, but I feel like I just want to get you all this information, and I just love all this stuff. So brainwaves and sound healing. So sound baths help to facilitate shift in our brainwave state by using entrainment, which is what we've just been talking about. Entrainment synchronizes our fluctuating brainwaves by providing a stable frequency which the brainwave can attune to. By using rhythm and frequency, we can entrain our brainwaves, and it then becomes possible to downshift our normal beta state, which is normal waking consciousness, to the alpha state, which is relaxed consciousness, and even reach the theta, which is the meditative state, and delta, which is sleep, where internal healing can occur. This same concept is utilized in meditation by regulating the breath, but with sound, it's the frequency that is the agent which influences the shift and triggers the healing. Okay. So along with so many other things that we're dealing with when we're talking about sound healing or any of those things, it's all about the brainwaves. But even meditation, when we're doing our meditations, we're downshifting those brainwaves down into those lower states where we want to be. So we want to, we want to get from those beta states down to that alpha state and even into that theta state if we can. I feel like in a lot of classes that I take, they always say you don't want to get down to the delta because, you don't want to fall asleep. But sometimes I think that if people fall asleep in my classes, it's exactly what they needed. Who am I to dictate to them where they need to be? When we're in that delta state, we are still processing and we are still taking things in, even if it's subconscious. So I like to believe that when people fall asleep, there may be even all of their defenses are down and maybe they're relaxing enough to take it all in, when maybe if they were in the theta state, they would still be hanging on a little bit, because there are some people that just have a hard time completely letting go. So hopefully now you guys have some other things that you can visualize about. There are so many different avenues that you can go down. I mean, this was just a very surface dive into brainwaves and entrainment, and it worked out to about 15 pages of this Word document. So I think that, you know, I think that there's so, if brainwaves is something that really like, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to know more about this. Oh my goodness, let me tell you, I was researching and Googling and reading for weeks, and I think I could continue on, but I don't think we need to really know all of the different mechanisms of it, but I think the brainwaves, it's just really cool to think about. And I also am now going to really for myself, if there's some training that can happen to help me. I think we already do it. I know for me, when I start to get into that, I take a deep breath and I drop my shoulders down, and I feel like that has the ability to kind of drop me back down, maybe into that, down to back into that state. So, yeah. Christina, you can find the Word document. So on the Mighty Network, when you go in, if you click on Becky's lessons, you'll see the first thing will be the video, and it'll say, like, I think today is brainwaves and binaural beats. And then below it, I always label it brainwaves and binaural beats Word document. And then you can go right in and click the link, and then you can print everything out from there, or you can just leave it on there and read it. And I will have that up at the latest tomorrow. So yeah, any questions? Anybody, have anything they want to say before I've kept you guys an hour, so I feel like you've listened to my talking for long enough. I hope that I taught you something new. I definitely learned some new things about the brain waves, and it's made me think about my brain and my body maybe in a little bit of a different way. And I feel like when I'm using tuning forks, I think about the brainwaves now a lot more than I used to when I was doing the tuning forks, especially kind of stimulating that vagus nerve. But I really do think about those brainwave states and wonder and put out to my guides and spirits, like, let me balance the brainwaves and, shift people into wherever they need to be for the day. So maybe just something else you can add to your toolbox now. Perfect. All right. Anybody have anything else they want to say or chat about or anything at all? All right. Well, it was nice to see you all. Thank you for logging back in this evening. I'm so sorry to have had to change the class this morning. I got stuck somewhere and didn't have cell phone reception and was like, oh no, I won't have enough. I knew I would not have reception when I would have been teaching the class. So I'm so sorry. And thank you guys for logging back. This is going to be my last class of the year. I will repost. It'll probably be, it won't be New Year's weekend, but the weekend after, when I will resume again. And in the chat feature of that Becky's lessons, if there's anything that you guys want me to teach about, if there's anything that you feel like you need more information about, pop it into that feed, pop it right in there. I do check that sometimes, and let me know, because I feel like my students that I mentor, they come to me, it seems like everybody has the same questions at the same time, which is kind of nice. So I find that will be what I normally teach my class on, is a lot of people have had this question. So I feel like maybe I'll just teach a class on this, but sometimes I don't have anything. So I just kind of, okay, what do I feel like I want to teach about? But if there's anything you guys want me to teach about, please put it in there, because, we're here to teach these classes and make them relevant for you guys. So if there's anything, again, that you want me to dig more into, just let me know and we can do that. Okay. It was awesome to see your faces, and I will see you guys again. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever it is that you're doing. Have a safe and happy New Year. And, we'll see everybody later. Bye.